Hello, my name is Mrs. Lara Fields, and today we're going to be doing a lab on enzymes. The enzyme that we're going to be focusing today is lactase. So lactase is a very important protein. For those of you who are lactose intolerant, you do not have the enzyme lactase, which helps break down the sugar in milk. So without lactase, we're not able to properly absorb the sugar in milk. So today we're going to see how different effects, primarily heat, can have on the function of enzymes. So we're going to start off by making the solutions that are necessary for us to proceed to the next step. So that's going to include making our heated lactase solution and our lactase solution. So all you really need to make your lactase solution is some, again, lactate tablets that you can get at any grocery store. So here I just have some Equate Dairy Relief. And what I'm going to do to make it easier to dissolve in the water that we're going to mix it with is I'm going to take 2 of these tablets and use a mortar and pestle to break it down. Okay, so we'll just add those 2 in here, and then we can just little by little break it down with the mortar and pestle. Once you can see that it's nice and finely, no little bits in there, the next step is just to simply pour it into our solutions. So I am going to put some in one of these beakers. So ideally you should have the equivalent of 1 tablet per, but this is just simply to show you how these solutions are made. So once we have our lactate in here, all that's needed is just 100 mils of water, which I have already measured here. So we'll just pour that into each of the beakers, like so. And then the very last step to make this work is just to simply place the heated lactase solution. So I already have one set up here, and I have the non-heated. And within both of these beakers, I do have a magnetic stirring rod. It just makes it a lot easier to stir the solution and to keep it nice and mixed together, because if you were to stop it, there would be some separation that occurs. So having it continuously mixing is ideal to meet optimal conditions. All right, so for our 3 tests that we're going to be doing with our experiment, we are going to need, again, the heated lactase solution, the non-heated lactase solution, and just simple water. So over here, I have our first set of experiments set up, where we have 3 test tubes, one that is simply just milk and water, one that is milk and lactase, and one that is milk and heated lactase. So we're going to see the effects of, again, heat on the enzyme's ability to function in milk. So if this enzyme is functioning properly, the lactase will be able to break down the lactose sugar in milk into glucose and galactose. And that is why we're going to have our little test strips. Our test strips are going to be testing for the amount of glucose in our solution. So if the milk is properly being broken down, the sugar, we should have glucose present in our solution. So let's start off by mixing our test tube solutions here. So our first one is going to be milk and water. All of these are going to require certain level of milk. So what I'm going to use is a pipette to put the exact amounts of milk in each one. So in the instructions, it says to have 1/4 of the test tube contain milk. I already have the line set up, so I'm just going to simply take each one and put in the milk up to the line. So just like that, we have our milk. Put our milk in this one as well. And ideally, let's see if I can. There we go. Milk. And then our last one here. There we go. Roughly about a fourth of the way. So now we can set our milk aside, and now we can mix what is going to be different in each solution. So at this point, when using the pipettes, it is important to keep in mind, do not mix the pipettes with different solutions. You don't want to cross-contaminate. That will have an effect on your results. So what I'm going to be mindful about when doing this experiment and mixing the solutions is making sure that when I use a pipette and mix it in there, I am going to just dispose of the pipette. Okay, so I'm going to take this water, I'm going to put it in the test tube here up to the line, which is just simply roughly halfway. And then what I'll do now is I'm going to take one of these glucose test strips, and we're going to see if having water in the milk will be able to produce glucose, meaning that the sugar lactose is actively being broken down. So I need to go here. I'll just stir it up real quick. And then about 20 seconds, and then we should be able to pull it out. If we do see a color change to brown, that means that there is glucose present in the solution. If it stays blue, that means that there is no glucose, meaning that no lactase or lactose was broken down, meaning there's no enzyme functioning. Okay. So if we put that there, we'll see that it stays the same color. It was blue, and is still currently blue, meaning that no enzyme function has occurred. So there's no enzyme functioning. All right, so we will dispose of that over here, and we'll move on to the next solution. All right, so our second solution is going to be milk with lactase. So ideally, with this solution, we want to see glucose in our final solution, meaning the lactase in the milk is able to function, break the lactose into glucose and galactose. So we are going to take our lactase solution here, where I'm going to grab a brand new sterile pipette. And I'm just going to simply grab some of this lactase solution as such. And then we're going to move on to our test tube that says milk and lactase. And then pour it up to the line, just like that. And then technically, this one we could also mix it, make sure it's nice and stirred together. You want to make sure that the lactase has an ability, the ability to function in here. So give that a nice stir. Again, dispose of the pipette. No longer use that one. And now we can take our glucose test strip and put it into the test tube to see if it in fact was able to function. So what we're looking for here is a change of color in the test strip. So we'll mix it around a few times. Leave it in there for roughly 20 seconds. And again, the more glucose that is present in the solution, that means that there was more breakdown of the lactose sugar. Okay, so with that, let's see how it worked. All right. Oh, actually, yes. So you can notice, and I still have the other test strip here just as a comparison. There is a slight change in color, right? So this one was just simply water. This one was with the lactase enzyme. So you can see that there is a change in color, slightly darker, meaning that there is a presence of glucose in the solution, meaning that the lactase is able to function. So now with our last solution, we want to see if we heat up this enzyme, will it still be able to function? Will it still be able to produce glucose in the solution? So we're going to, again, grab a sterile pipette. And now this time I'm going to grab my heated solution. Make sure it's off. Okay, so we're going to go straight into the heated lactase solution and pipette some of the solution out. And then go straight to our test tube. Whoa, it's crazy. Labeled milk and heated lactase enzyme. So again, in this situation, I'm going to pour the solution in and then just give it a nice stir with the pipette until I feel like it's nice and mixed together. Because again, we just want to see if the lactase enzyme is properly functioning when heated. So we'll dispose of the pipette, grab our glucose strip, and then same as before, we will go straight into our solution. It's this one right here. And we'll mix it around. And just about roughly 20 seconds. And let's see how it came out. Boom. So again, for comparison here, if I still have it, this is the one with the non-heated lactase, and this is with the heated lactase. So you can see the one that was not heated, it's still changing color. So that means it's detecting more glucose as time passes by. This one, which is again the heated lactase, it stayed the same color. So what that means is that there's no glucose present in the solution, meaning that the enzyme was not able to break down lactose into glucose and galactose. So no enzyme activity present here. Okay. So these 3 tests that we did was with milk. Now we're going to do it with sugar. So I will just kind of gently set these aside for now, and then set up our next 3 test tubes with our next set of solutions. So for this next step, we are still going to need the lactase and heated lactase solution. The milk we will no longer need. All right, so again, instead of using milk this time around, we are going to be using sugar. So I have our sugar here, and we're going to mix the same 3 solutions from before, only again, instead of milk, we're going to be doing sugar. So I will set up our test tubes over here. So we are going to have sucrose. I'm just using regular sugar, granulated sugar that you can get from the grocery store. We have sucrose and lactase, and then sucrose and water. Okay, so same as before, I'm just going to start with what's going to be the same in all the solutions, which is going to be sugar. So I'm just going to simply take the sugar here and then dump the sugar into each test tube about 1/4 of the way up. So let's try our best to not make a mess. So I do have the lines here. Oh, sugar. All right, so we have our sugar for each of our solutions. So now let's start off with our first experiment here, our first test, which is going to be mixing water and sugar together and seeing the effects that has on our glucose test strip. So I'm going to grab a brand new sterile pipette. Go into the water and then try my best to mix the water and the sugar. It's probably going to be super thick. So just try our best to mix the solution in there together. Good. All right. So now that it's roughly mixed, we're going to take our test strip and we are going to pour it into our test tube, mix it around as best as possible. Just go up and down. All right, give that about 10 more seconds here. But we'll see that the test strip shouldn't change any color. With this table sugar, it's not necessarily glucose, I believe, so it shouldn't be detecting glucose. It shouldn't be detecting any glucose in the solution, which ideally should be the case with all three, but we shall test to find out. Okay, so next test we're going to do is simply the sucrose or sugar with our handy dandy unheated lactase solution. So I'm just going to go in here, and I haven't been mixing it, so I'm just going to stir it real quick just to make sure it's well mixed together and pipette some of the solution up. Perfect. All right, so then we'll go to our test tube number 2 and make sure it says sucrose and lactase. Dump that in there. Go. And then we will simply mix that together. And then just to make sure it doesn't have a chance to separate, we will quickly dispose of the pipette, grab our glucose test strip, and then mix it into our solution. There we go. Let's give it some time to read the results. All right. And take the test strip out. Again, we'll see no color change has occurred here, so there's no glucose present in this solution. So then we'll move on to our very, very last experimental setup here, which is with the heated lactase solution. So I will get our sterile pipette. And again, since the heated lactase solution, I did not have it stirring at this time, so I'm just going to simply whisk it around a bit just to make sure it's all mixed together. And then grab pipette full. Perfect. And then we shall take it to the last test here. Okay, and mix that together. And again, just like before, make sure it doesn't have a chance to mix around. We're going to grab our test strip and we are going to see how much glucose is in the solution. So heated lactase. About 5 more seconds here. Okay. So we take the test strip out and we'll again notice that there is no glucose present. Okay. Ideally, this trial of experiments was to show that again, the glucose is coming from the milk, right? Because when that lactase mixes with the milk, the sugars inside of that milk, the lactose is able to break down, which helps give the glucose needed for the test strip to change. So with that, we are done with this experiment.